Greetings, one and all, to the most cursed, most cringiest corner of the internet. A YouTube channel content creator actively alienating everyone in both the analog and digital world. Well, welcome and good evening, wonderful dice of all alignments. I am Lunar D8. This is Let's Play Horrific Xanatorium. Blind. Just sitting enjoying the music for a moment. I think I'll start reading some nature books sometimes too. I saw this book about mushrooms at the library. So, yeah, like I said, I just like to read whatever. This work contains violent and grotesque expressions. Be aware. Where am I? It was awfully dark. The place was covered with wreckage, and the smell of smoke filled the air. There was a girl in front of me, covered in blood and wearing torn-up clothes. She was holding my hand. However, I could not see her face clearly because of the black fog. The girl was trying to tell me something. Her voice was muffled, and I could not quite hear what she said. I tried my best, and I listened carefully to understand her. Rui? I finally heard a voice, but it was not coming from this world. The world flipped and my consciousness switched to another place. Are you okay? You were moaning in your sleep. I think we'll be back at the hospital soon. Oh, okay. I responded reluctantly as my body felt dull after having an unpleasant dream. I drank water to moisten my throat and got my mind right. My name is Rui Genzaki. I took a break from the university and now on a bus heading to a place called Kamakoya Sanitarium Hospital. This hospital, built in a mountain full of nature, was what you called a psychiatric hospital. I never thought I'd end up in a psychiatric hospital. I was unlucky and got infected with spiria, a new type of encephalitis virus transmitted by blood from animals too. Spiria was known to cause hallucinations, delusions, and memory disorder. Currently, there was no treatment for it, and the only thing that could be done was to wait for the virus to disappear and... Let me change where the screen is. Okay. 5 minutes, 10 seconds. We'll see if that affects the slight black border. I'm okay with it. Now I can read all of the writing. Stress-free environment. As a matter of fact, I had been experiencing all kinds of unpleasant hallucinations. I saw some strange creatures. I saw my bamboo sword looking crooked through my eyesight. I was in the middle of preparing for a kendo tournament in July, but because of the spirit, I was forced to take a break. It really sucks. If this is just another dream, I want to wake up now. What are you mumbling about? Nothing. Apparently I was speaking out loud. I took a good look at my sister sitting next to me. Her name is Moan. According to an anime geek friend of mine, she was an ideal little sister, who appeared as if she came out of an anime. She might be a bit stubborn, but she was pretty cute and very caring. She was now accompanying me to the hospital since our parents were busy with their work. It was not surprising for people to consider her as the ideal. What? Why are you staring at me? It's nothing. I looked out the window to change the line of vision. Many trees appeared and disappeared as they drifted away from my sight. The view seemed to continue, but then the boring loop was suddenly ended by an enigmatic presence. Outside the window in the forest, a rust-colored human-shaped monster with unusually long fingers and toes appeared. How are you able to see the person's toes from a bus? They're also bald. The monster stared at me with swirling eyes that seemed to drag everything into an abyss. Gasp. I could not help but let out a pathetic sound. What is it? There was a monster in the forest. It was reddish-brown with long arms and legs and... You're probably hallucinating. Hallucination or not, it's not a pleasant thing to look at. I forgot I was infected with spiria. People have different hallucinations, but I heard that most people see human-shaped monsters. I see. Anyone remember the movie The Thing from, John Carpenter? It's like the 70s. It's a good movie. I recommend it. I think it probably stands up better than most modern movies. Her face gradually darkened from looking fed up, and then finally turned calm. Don't worry, you'll be fine once you're in the hospital. Yeah, I agreed, hoping for that to be true. I see the hospital. Moan told me as she pointed ahead. But in front of the hospital there was an enormous gate. Okay, this feels a little overkill for mental asylum patients. Also, are you trying to keep people in or are you trying to keep them out? This is overkill. It does remind me of a thing. There are places that are places for elderly people that usually have severe dementia and stuff or Parkinson's disease. And what they would have a problem. People, sometimes the old people would just wander out thinking they had to go somewhere. And then they would just get lost in the woods. And then they'd just be lost and get really dehydrated and probably die. So in order to prevent that, they just built a fake bus stop. So anytime, an old person wanders outside with Parkinson's, they see the bus stop. Okay, I'll wait for the bus to take me where I need to go. And then every hour, an attendant, person working there can just go outside and check on the fake bus stop. And they'll find people there that went there to wait on the bus to go somewhere they thought they needed to go. And by the time you find them there, they've already forgotten where they were going. And they're just oh, I don't know why I'm sitting here. Oh, you'll take me where I need to go? Okay, thank you. And then they just escort the old person back in the building. That would make sense, because that's something that actually happens in real life. Now, granted, I'm sure this happens in real life too. But still, I feel like there are additional factors involved if you're going to surround a mental asylum with this much security. What's next? Have a military helicopter flying around enforcing the speed limit on the freeway? I'm just saying, this is overkill. This is too much. Even for a psychiatric hospital. I mean, maybe if it was Arkham Asylum, maybe, and your patients have are either violent super criminals or, have powers. Like if a person can shoot fire or something, I guess. And is actually dangerous as opposed to, oh, we brought in this dude because occasionally he sees trees that look funny. We'll say this, the whole Injustice plotline of Batman and Superman didn't make any sense. Because here's the thing. It doesn't matter if it was a society that had already outlawed, the death penalty. They would have given, Superman wouldn't have to do anything. They would have just given Joker the death penalty. Even in a world if they had completely already outlawed the death penalty. I think they would have been an exception. Then again, same with Batman the Animated Series. Absolutely amazing show, but I'll tell you this. Even in a world, again, if the death penalty was illegal, they would have put Joker to death for the first couple episodes, given how many people would technically die. Though they don't really show the deaths, because again, it's rated Y7. It's another thing. Like, oh, Batman, why doesn't Batman kill people? Well, first off, psychological issues on his part, and also a very strict honor code. Just something very personal to him. But more to the point is it's a show for kids. You can't have a TV show where the hero is killing people. You can't do that. You're not allowed to have a TV show for children where the hero kills people. So it's just an issue of the audience. Like, who are you making the show for? If you're making it for fucking 7-year-olds who eventually grow into 30-year-olds who still watch the show, still. It's kind of one thing that did kind of annoy me with Pokemon. Like, I got into Pokemon when I was 10, but then they kept, after Orange Island was great, and then after that they just kept dumbing Ash down because they wanted it to be a good entry show for people to 10. I understand, that's actually the way it should be, because it's supposed to be a show for kids. But I would like to see a show that is like Pokemon, but, like the hypothetical quote-unquote Ash Ketchum is 19 or 20 when he leaves home, and Team Rocket, Jesse and James are 22, 23 or something. And basically it follows relatively the same storyline. But I don't know how much you have to change in order to avoid copyright from Nintendo and stuff. But I'm just saying, the storyline as is, it's good that Jesse and James are sort of the comedic villains. But I think the Pokemon, at least the first Mewtwo Pokemon movie and the second movie with Lugia, should have been canon, along with Orange Islands. And basically try to focus relatively that same storyline, but maybe a bit more mature. And make sure that it's, purely marketed that, hey, this is for adults. This is Black Lagoon level, audience demographic, But anyway, the idea being that at the end of the Pokemon 2000, Team Rocket temporarily became good guys, but at the end of that, they changed back. I would have liked if that was part of the actual main story. And up to this whole point, Team Rocket had been in the background, and Jesse and James were the main antagonists, but they were comedy villains. And then after that, we have sort of a genre shift where it's already always been intended for older audiences, but now we switch to a genre shift where you start noticing that Team Rocket, the rest of the Team Rocket, starts being more out there and noticeable, and it tends to be a much more mature, dangerous organization. And keep in mind, after the Orange Island / Lugia thing, and I'd say the issue of Lugia should take place before I would say at least before the final tournament thing, where Ash wind up having a 6v6 battle against, I think, Drake, who had a Dragonite, which that was a great thing, and Ash was actually pretty smart with that. And that was a cool thing. You saw that, Ash was getting smart and being intelligent the way he played, and then he just went back to being a fucking dumbass. And you got rid of his main cast of characters and his main Pokemon to try to switch things up, because they were trying to keep things fresh and interesting and make the new, areas interesting to sell video games. Again, why do we have to have the limit of 6 Pokemon? Anyway, main thing I'm just trying to say with that is, say the Lugia thing from Pokemon 2000, the movie, takes place before at least before that final match. But if not, maybe after. I'm just saying before Ash gets back from the Orange Islands, because there are some scenes with Team Rocket with the whole Drake thing, but I think a few of those scenes, of course, could be changed if they are good guys before that. But I'm just saying after the whole selfless sacrifice of Jesse and James were willing to basically give their lives to save Ash and to save the world, what if after that they just decided to stop being Team Rocket? And Jesse and James and Meowth were just good guys from that time on. And they traveled around with Ash Ketchum and the others. And we didn't have to like trade out like people in different areas. Like we could just have like a group of like 20 people following Ash around, just making a massive fucking like nomad clan in the middle of the woods like it's fucking cyberpunk. And they have actual freaking tents instead of like sleeping under the stars and shit. I'm just saying, imagine like Jesse and James actually traveling around with Ash as best friends. And everyone's like, you're just, like, your main motivation for this is that you think Jesse from Team Rocket is hot. And I'm like, yes, Jesse from Team Rocket is very sexy. So yes. But aside from my own lewd thoughts, I just think it would be really cool to have Jesse and James as part of, you know, the good guys. And then after that, the rest of Team Rocket's out there, and, you know, it's a much more darker organization to where, you know, Jesse and James came in as comedic villains. And now they're just they're also heroes, not sidekicks. But they're like also main protagonists and good guys. Now, yes, there might be like an occasional comedy here and there, but I don't want them to be seen as like comedic gags. I want them to be treated as serious characters who are actually part of the main cast, to where they're just as much the main characters as, say, Ash and Misty and Brock and all of them. That being said, the rest of Team Rocket, not comedic villains. Definitely villains, but not comedic. Not comedic at all. Very, very... Whereas like Jesse and James might have just been misguided silliness and shenanigans, the rest of Team Rocket are like straight up really bad people. Or at least as much as suitable for like things of like the same maturity level as, say, Black Lagoon or One Piece. You know, around there. My ear is itchy. Anyway, the point being, I don't know where the rest of the show would go, but I would think like good people to be in charge of the way the writing and stuff for this. Then again, I wouldn't be against seeing video games made by the same cast as well on different subjects, like first-person shooters or horror games or explorer games or any kind of games. But I would say just an anime following the stuff I mentioned, but have it made by Raging Golden Eagle and Asmongold. I think those would be good people that would be able to steer it in a very... I think they would be able to, as well as they would each know people that would be very good at just being entertaining and good at their craft, whether it be drawing or making great music. There's no reason why we can't have a banger soundtrack too. Heck, I remember having the first 3 Pokemon soundtracks. That was pretty kick-ass. Yes, my music taste consists of Pokemon soundtracks and Rammstein, System of a Down, Korn, Disturbed, Linkin Park, Nickelback, Pantera, Infected Mushroom, Final Fantasy soundtracks, Dragon Ball Z soundtracks. I mean, who else likes a bit of Bruce Faulkner? Hey, let's hop back to this. I got distracted. The bus stopped. Alright, I was talking about the injustice thing. The other thing is this. 1, I understand Batman's against killing, but here's the thing. It's easy enough to punch somebody and accidentally kill somebody, especially if you're as strong as Batman is. I mean, the wrong hit, like there's people that go to bars, get drunk, punch somebody, and then think nothing other, and later on in the day, like a police stop by and said, hey, that person fell and hit their head and died. Like, there'd be an amount of people that would just accidentally die just in fighting or just car accidents and stuff that would happen, even if you didn't shoot a single gun ever. And then there's the fact that eventually enough of these supervillains causing enough issues, there would just be regular, people who would want to do something about it, as well as the police and government would eventually step in at some point. Like, it's one thing, you definitely want to rehabilitate people, especially if they're nonviolent, and especially if they had some sort of issue to where, okay, this person, it was like, oh, they accidentally crashed a car or something. Okay, whatever. Which, again, serious, but it's not as malicious as say, oh, you drugged the fucking water supply of an entire city, making people have laughing fits until they died. It's like, or like you nuked a fucking city. Like, I feel at that point, there's no rehabilitation at this point. Like, there's certain lines that are just, I think even in that kind of society, that it would be it wouldn't be tolerated. Beyond that, I would say this. The amount of villains that would just go after each other. Like, eventually Joker would piss off somebody else and, like, Poison Ivy would just kill him. Or Penguin would, like, hire somebody. Or, heck, not even a villain. Just, like, another, let's say a mob boss feels like Joker is pushing in on his territory. So he just hires Deadshot to kill him. Or Deathstroke. Or any of that. Heck, at that point, Bruce Wayne could actually just write a check to Deadshot to kill the Joker. You're like, well, technically that's still Batman killing someone. Yeah, I know, technically. I'm not saying he would do it. I'm just saying that's a possibility. Heck, Alfred could do it. Alfred, with as much as the tech costs, then again, at that point, as much money as Batman's spending, could he just not see a therapist or donate money to fix the economy? I mean, Joker's not going to get very far if there's no one willing to, like you have to be on some pretty hard times to be willing to take a paycheck from the psycho, clown dude who is killing people and poisoning water supplies. Like, you must be, like, really, really hard up for a paycheck. Now, if you have a job you like that pays okay, and you actually have a life worth living, and you got a family and all that, and you're actually happy with your life, I don't think you'd be willing to risk working for a guy with half his face melted. Or a guy who's a crocodile. Or a woman who has, like, giant carnivorous plants eating Volkswagens. Like, I think at that point no one would be, like, willing to take that job. So I'm just saying, maybe just therapy and a better economy? I don't know. I'm just saying it would make for a better, very boring story, but in real life, I mean, there's better solutions. On both sides of the gate, high fence stretched into the forest. What's with all the gate and fence? Are every psychiatric hospital strictly guarded like this? I read on the internet they built them to enclose the facility for safety. From what? Velociraptors? I know it's a weird... Yeah, I'm pretty sure if, like, velociraptors existed, it would be... I don't know if there'd be a single animal on the planet that wouldn't, like... that would be able to stand up to a velociraptor. Like, imagine, like, a velociraptor, and of course they would hunt packs, at least if that's what Jurassic Park is believed. Like, here's something. If, say, a pack of elephants encounters a single velociraptor, how is that fight going to go? Some lions versus velociraptors? Heck, and back in the 1800s, there was a railroad being built through Africa, and normally lions wouldn't really attack big groups of people, but there was these two lions that just started eating people in their sleep. They would just, like, sneak into the camp and rip people out of their tents and start eating them. Killed a couple hundred people, until eventually a dude, like, hunted them down with a rifle. And once they shot the lions, they realized why the lions were killing the people. They had teeth problems. Basically, lions had bad teeth, so they couldn't eat, like, the normal game of antelope and gazelle, because their bones and flesh are much harder than people. But they couldn't eat them. But humans are much softer, both our bones and our flesh. So basically, we were a Jell-O cup for an elderly person. If that, elderly person had cat ears, a tail, and was carnivorous. Recently, they've been closing the gate because of the increasing number of screwed patients from spiria. That makes sense. Perhaps the screwed one is actually the hospital, and the wall was built to keep the patients from escaping? For a moment, a terrifying delusion came to mind, and my body got tense. Was I having a delusion because of spiria? Anyway, why did you check the place that far? Isn't it obvious? My beloved brother might be in the care for months. It's only natural to check to make sure it's not a strange place. She speaks like a mother. I ain't staying in the hospital for months. I'll get well as soon as I can and get out of there. I hope so. Again, I feel like if this stuff is suddenly affecting this large enough amount of people, what is causing this? Again, I think it's fitting that I'm actually going to be starting to read a book about mushrooms soon. Like I said, I just want to read books about mushrooms or other plants, or maybe I'll get some books about find books about aquatic life and sea animals and stuff, and just read that. A person who looked like a staff member opened the gate for us. They might have been notified about us in advance. When the bus ran a little past the gate, the entire hospital became visible. It was a nice, clean hospital that made me forget the horrifying image I had because of the gate. Looks like a nice place. Yeah. A soft wind blew straight across me as I got off the bus. For some reason the way this hospital is designed reminds me of Mega Man Legends. I still want a Mega Man Legends 3. The smell from the trees surrounding the hospital calmed my buzzing mind. We entered the hospital. The place looked new, regardless of being in the mountains. Surprisingly, there were many young patients. I had heard many elders with dementia were usually in these kinds of places, so this might be due to the spiria spreading. I went to the reception desk with Moan and gave my name as Skinzaki. We were then told to have a seat and wait for the director to come. I wondered why the director was coming, but I concluded that things like that could happen and did not ask. We sat down in the chairs and waited leisurely for the director to appear. There were a few people, but the place was very quiet and peaceful. Outside the window was a beautiful view of nature, but then a disturbing, croaky voice, unfit for the pleasant hospital, rang out in my ears. I don't think this shitty hospital's gonna fix your crappy head. Bah. A strange skull-like creature appeared suddenly in the air. However, I looked at it without batting an eye. I already knew this being. Hey, you ignoring me? If you treat me like that, I might burst into tears. The way this skull's drawn, it reminds me of the enemies from the NES game by Jaleco, the Japanese leisure company from NES, 1987, or 1988, Robo Warrior. Very good game. It's like Bomberman, but for autistic people. It was a delusion I created. I could say it was an embodiment of my image against spiria. Its appearance was probably based on the evil leader from a superhero TV show, Sword Rangers, which I used to love to watch. It was a symbol of fear and discomfort for me. For some reason, its personality was much more cheerful than the original one, though. You'll be like this through the rest of your life. You ain't gonna escape the disease. Come now, join my army and do all the evil things together. Let go to Dairy Queen. I brushed Skinny off with my right hand while keeping a straight face. It then easily disappeared like fog. The easiest way to identify hallucinations caused by spiria, that was to actually touch it. It was an exception when something that exists appeared to be something else, but it could not be touched if it was not real. I looked beside me. Moan was blankly watching the scenery full of nature outside. The words of my friend, little sister who looked as if she came out of an anime, crossed my mind. Okay, are you real? Did I hallucinate a sister? Do you not actually exist? Without a deep thought, I tried to poke her on the cheek.
However, she instantly sensed it. Whoa, don't you dare pull the prank. Moan glared at me and I quickly pulled my head back. Just give her a hug. Is she real? Moan, are you real? Hug me if you are real. As I was thinking how to justify myself, a figure suddenly appeared in front of us. When I looked up.
What? 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 Okay, I assume the director is actually there and she's a woman. I assume the fucking, gun and gas mask and perhaps oddly themed belt memorabilia that seems very reminiscent of something else mixed with bone symbols, but very, very easy to see that pattern and see something else. I assume that's the hallucination. But I assume there's actually a woman there, and she's actually the director, and she's at least dressed somewhat like that, somewhat formal attire with a lab coat, and it's got white hair and stuff. Maybe she's got like a Batman pouch or something. But I doubt she's actually has like biker gloves, MMA gloves, gas mask, or a gun. There was a woman in white wearing a gas mask and holding a gun. I did not even need to touch her. It was obviously a hallucination. I was having hallucinations that did not even make sense to me. I am Henri, the director of the hospital. You must be the newest spiria patient here. It was useless to deal with delusions, so I decided to ignore it just as I did with Glennie. Oh, you've got some nerve to ignore me. I am the rule here. If you disrespect me, you will be treated accordingly. Delusion pulled a gun to my head. When I glanced at Moan, she was looking in the direction of the director with a panicked face. Maybe the director isn't a delusion after all. I'm sorry, that's right. I'm Ren Genzaki. I've been newly admitted to the hospital. I got up in haste and introduced myself. Okay, fine. The person who identified herself as the director seemed to be satisfied and lowered her gun. Maybe it's just a tranq gun? But again, you wouldn't aim at my head. That would still kill you. It's kind of like the same thing with a blank. Though also the other issue is this. Tranq gun. You can still kill people with those. They could have reactions. Depending on where you shoot them, you could have concentrations too much. Also, if you shoot them too much, I'm not Yujiro. I can't survive 30 fucking tranq gun shots. The other thing is this, like if you shoot the wrong spot, it's still technically a needle, and what if it injects the wrong spot? Or you inject too much? Same thing with a taser. Too much or the wrong person, and, well, it can still kill you. It's not non-lethal, it's less lethal. Same way if you shoot someone with like a blank or a rubber bullet. Yes, they're not going to like cause as much damage, but it can still kill you. Depending on where it hits you or how close. Heck, even with a bulletproof vest, even if you get shot in the bulletproof vest and does its job, it can still kill you. It'll still leave giant, like purplish black bruise, probably crack ribs, could still even like break organs. Heck, there's types of riot guns that shoot beanbags. You can kill people with those. Same thing with there's certain types of electronic shotguns, which I know sounds really weird. They've been using them for a couple decades now, but they're not very common. What it is it shoots basically sort of, kind of a beanbag / rubber bullet mix sort of thing. The idea is that first it hits you really fucking hard. Like, think of it like a miniature Goku flying through the air and hitting you. Anyway, here's the thing though. It's also got an electronic circuit built into it. So what it'll do is got these little sort of barbs in either way. So it'll hit you like a giant beanbag, and then it'll also stab you slightly. Now, the stuff to stab you is not very, deep. Just think of something like, imagine if someone like stabbed you with a couple thumbtacks. So, imagine if someone came up to you and like took a baseball bat and just like cracked you in the middle of your ribs, and then they just started poking you with thumbtacks to like insert all of the pointy part of the needle all the way into your flesh.
Obviously, that would hurt, but it's not going to kill you usually, depending on where you get shot anyway. Anyway, the main point is this. Initially, it doesn't electrocute you, but your first reaction is going to be that something hit you very hard, it stabbed you a tiny bit, and now it's dangling out of your side. Your first reaction upon feeling something, poking into you without even thinking about it, and also you'd be kind of dazed from, all of the aforementioned things, your first reaction will be to try to grab it and pull it out of yourself. However, your action of pulling it will actually close the circuit so that as soon as you try to remove what has been shot into you, it will then electrocute you. Again, it's not supposed to be a strong enough shock to kill you, but again, it's not healthy for you, and depending on location or your health, it could still kill you. Anyway. After all, I was not hallucinating. The director in front of me was real. Perhaps I was only seeing her in a funny appearance. Otherwise, there was no such way a weird director wearing a gas mask and carrying a gun existed. Under normal circumstances, I would say it's completely impossible, but given the fence we saw, which again could have been hallucination, maybe the fence was just a completely normal fence. Maybe it's just a nice little white picket fence covered in bunnies. And again, we don't know what kind of ammunition, but again, even if it's rubber bullets or tranks, you wouldn't point it at somebody's head. And even then, I'm just a dude sitting here, lost in thought. Certainly excessive. Why is there gas coming out of your gas mask? Is it just that cold? And your breath is condensing in the air? Ryu Genuzaki, welcome to the Kamikaze Sanatorium Hospital. We welcome you. She spread her arms wide and shouted as if she was the ruler of this place. To what extent was this person altered by my delusions? Were her words and actions also twisted because of the delusions? She looked young, but since she was the director, she could be an old man in reality. I could not distinguish true from false, and it made me confused. This reminds me of some of the stories from Geoffrey Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales. Very good series of stories. I kind of started to try to read that and some Shakespeare's at one point on the Shakespeares. I remember a video where Nathan Explosion Deathclock was reading some Shakespeare. Heck, yeah, the Hatsune Mikune, a hologram concert, that's really cool. But the fact that we can do that, why can't we do that with Deathclock? Or at a UFC fight, Goku versus Majin Buu. Goku versus Majin Vegeta. I don't know. I wonder if we'd have MMA fighters protesting at saying when they take away their jobs. AI is taking away boxers' jobs. Replace full-on football fields with just holograms that are just professional video game players. And then you have football players in the NFL protesting saying AI is taking their jobs. I don't know. In general, I like AI art. It means more really cool art made faster. Though I will say this, I do have a preference for hand-drawn art by humans. And especially I would say I would prefer hand-drawn art by humans with physical paper over stuff drawn in digital. But I would still prefer the stuff drawn in digital over AI in terms of aesthetics. That being said, I'm certainly not going to have any complaints with an anime made entirely by AI as long as the quality is good. As long as I have a product I enjoy, that's all I care about. The only thing is this. A lot of the older animes that were done exclusively by hand, pen and paper, it's just the skill and the attention to detail a lot of the artists have done. It's just more aesthetically pleasing. Though, of course, there's also times there have been some human artists who have cut corners and made some really shoddy looking stuff. But I'll say this. I'm not exactly a snob. I don't feel that something has to be able to surpass the uncanny valley and be ultra realistic or some shit. Like even this. Like take this art style. I think this art style is really cool. I like the drawings. I like the way the characters are drawn. I like the environments. I think this is very good. And for some reason, the way the game is drawn, it makes me think of Mega Man Legends. And I mean that as a very big compliment. I still want Mega Man Legends 3. What can I say? I just like it. And heck, the music in the background. I'm liking the music in this game. Okay, I'm going to stop just complimenting the authors of the game and actually play the game. But in general, so far, I like the game you made. I like the art style. I like everything. Originally, sanatoriums were built in places with fresh air to treat tuberculosis patients. This hospital is built for the same purpose and has a long history dating back to 100 years. As a matter of course, it was renovated, reconstructed during these years. Is that so? She started blabbing about the history of the hospital. Since I was confused from seeing hallucinations, most things she said did not stay in my mind. 10 minutes later, so that's about it. Regarding the facilities and rules, ask the person in charge. That seems to be more like an important thing to know. See you. After showing off her knowledge, the director gracefully walked away. That was a bit of a weird director. It appeared she was an unusual director even without the hallucination. Yeah, I did not want to make Moan too worried, so I kept the strange hallucination to myself and agreed with her. Afterward, we were guided by a nurse to my hospital room. We walked a short distance and moved to another building. Currently, this building is mainly for patients with spiria. I saw a patient making a strange sounds. The atmosphere seems to have changed a little. It was terrifying. We went up the stairs to the second floor and reached the room I would be staying in. Please use the empty bed in the back right corner. I was shown to a room for 4. There were already 3 patients there. A boy scribbling fiercely in a notebook with red crayon. No, a monster is attacking. Help me. A woman who looked horrified, hiding behind a curtain. Ah, a drooling man with empty eyes. It was obvious that they were mad, but I was one of them to some degree. Okay, I understand there's like space limitations, but here's the thing. 1, are we contagious? 2, perhaps we shouldn't have the mental patients sharing a room that are known for having hallucinations. Or maybe that's better, so we can keep an eye on each other, but again, I don't know if this is good or bad. It's a mix. I'm not sure if this is a good idea or a bad idea. I mean, on the one hand, it saves on money, and it could help with other mental health issues, and if someone like really is like freaking out too much, the others can get like a nurse or something. On the other hand, I don't know if I'd want to sleep around a bunch of people that are, seeing stuff that isn't real. My bed was by the window, and I could see a beautifully trimmed light green lawn, as well as a pond and a forest in the back. The nurse left after explaining briefly about the facilities and the rules. Rui, be sure to rest until you get better. Will do. I hear you. Since I got spirit, I was not allowed to use my phone nor to stabilize my mental health. I had gotten used to living without the internet a lot lately. I would probably be spending my time doing things like reading a book here as well. I'll come to visit you once in a while, so if there's anything you want, just let me know then. Thanks. It was a word from my heart. Well, I mean, you could just stop at the library and bring me any books you think I would like. See you. Later. Drive safe on the bus. It made me feel very sad to see years go by. To moan when I think that there's no one I know here. After she left, I took out the novel I was in the middle of reading. However, I gradually got bored and decided to look around the hospital. As I was randomly walking around, I saw a girl who looked familiar talking to a nurse at the rest area. That girl, I think I've seen her somewhere before. However, I could not remember.
She had finished speaking to the nurse and started walking away, so I chased after her. For some reason I felt like I should not leave her alone. If I did not remember her, I would regret it. Somehow, that was what I thought. I went up many stairs. I was on the 7th floor before I noticed the girl went further up the stairs from a dimly lit, empty hallway. I followed her up the stairs, but there was no one at the end. There was a door to the rooftop, with a plate written "No Entry." I was sure the girl went up the stairs. She probably went out to the rooftop. When I turned the doorknob, the door was not locked. I was able to open it with no problem. I went out to the rooftop with some hesitation. My body wobbled a little bit from the strong wind. The rooftop was very clean, and it was hard to believe the place was closed off. I looked around for the girl. There she was. But she was not at a place where people were supposed to be. She was outside the fence on the rooftop. Don't! The word just came out of my mouth. The girl turned around and looked at me. Pale hair and skin. I was sure I had seen this girl somewhere before.
1. How did you get on that side? 2. Why did you take your shoes off?
After a few moments of silence, she opened her mouth. It's been a long time, Rui. I was surprised to hear my name from her. However, hearing her voice brought back memories that had been deep in my brain. Could you be Riza? I just remembered she was Riza Tencho, my childhood friend who lived in the neighborhood. We used to spend a lot of time together. But she moved away when we were in the 6th grade, and I had not seen her since. She was also my first love. It's a coincidence that we meet here. I wondered how she recognized me so quickly after all these years, but it was not the time to be impressed by her memory and astute observation. But what are you doing? Don't tell me you're going to jump off. I am. Will you stop me? Of course. Suicide is not a good idea. You should rethink about it. Hearing my words, Riza put her index finger to her chin as if she was thinking a little. Then do something funny to make me laugh. Okay, I don't do well with high-pressure situations. Huh? What did she say? Only confusion came to me. If you can make me laugh, I wouldn't do it.
Okay, this is... That's not fair. That's not very nice to do. That's putting a lot of pressure on me.
Why would she stop dying if I did something funny? I could understand how it was related. However, I had to do something or Riza would die. I decided to think of minor details later and tried to yank the idea from my brain. An impersonation, a funny face, a one-liner. None of them did seem to work, but then a flash of idea came to my mind. What? Marogan sausage. Sausage. How do you pronounce sausage? I'll just say Marogan sausage. I assume it's a funny childhood song or something? Like a nursery rhyme? Is this the nursery rhyme? As I said that, I raised my hands above my head and with my palms together and twisted my entire body. A moment of silence and... Haha, I haven't seen that in a while. Okay, I mean, it's good that you're laughing. I'm happy that you're laughing. But what if it makes you lose your balance and you fall over? How did you even get over there? Did you climb? How the fuck did you climb that? I'd get a Charlie horse just trying that. She laughed. The fish sausage commercial. Fish sausage? That sounds horrible. I mean, I'm more of a bratwurst person. But fish sausage? I mean, just eat a fish stick. Heck, that reminds me. They're like selling fish sticks that are like shaped like sharks now. I mean, it's just fine. Like I just had like the rectangle shaped ones in the past. You just put mustard on them when you ate them. But I'll tell you this. For some reason, it makes me think of Gargura. Maybe it's the hair color. Anyway, I remember like Taco Bell having like street sharks. It was the thing about these sharks that like swam through pavement. But again, that had to be a lot of money for construction. Like, imagine like you had superheroes, so their power was they swam through solid matter as if it was water, and had superpowers, and they're just like constantly like destroying all the roads and busting through walls, and those are your heroes. But it was cool for a kid show. It's called Street Sharks, and like, you know, Taco Bell was selling those toys. And it's like, and I'm like, imagine like Garguro was like part of that group. Like I say, she's a funny VTuber.
makes people laugh. But again, don't lose your balance and fall. When we were in elementary school, this phrase became popular between the two of us, and we used to say it all the time for a while. Came to think of it, I was not sure what part of it had laughing fit. It was funny, so I guess I'll stop killing myself for now. That's... I'm glad you're... But, again, this is... I don't feel it's emotionally healthy. Like, here's the thing, I feel a bit depressed about things at times, but I would never want to, like, put anybody on the fucking spot for something like that. Like, yeah, like, no, I wouldn't want to... That's too much pressure to put on somebody. That's just, like... And also, that's not healthy to base human interactions off of. This... I mean, granted, we're in a mental hospital, but still, I mean, this is... There are so many things that are wrong with the... Like, this situation. So... Also, the phrasing's a bit odd. I assume this is not originally in English. She easily gave up what she was trying to do. That's a relief. I was relieved and thanked my usually useless brain for giving me a flash of inspiration. Riza climbed the fence surprisingly lightly and landed on the side. I mean, I understand you're skinny, but still, like, how are you climbing that? Heck, I knew a dude at one point, like, tried to climb a fence like that, and he, like, fell, and he, like, it yanked on part of his inside of his arm, and actually cut open the whole forearm and pulled out his veins out of his arm, and it was really gross. Yeah, ow. Ewy. Then she closed in on me. Her clear air and skin stretched across to my sight.